Hi guys, and welcome to Forge Wright. If you watched the last video, you'd know that I'm about to start my new project, which is making a rounding hammer for myself. I have to make a bunch of tools to be able to make this rounding hammer, so I'm starting this series on making the tools required to make a rounding hammer. First tool on the list is a hammer eye punch. So I'll be using some Fork Lift Tine 4140 chromium steel, so medium carbon steel, and I'll be cutting a section out of that, forging it into the shape I like, and inserting a handle. That's probably all I need to tell you at this stage. It's going to be a very long video, as a lot of my videos tend to be, but I want to try and get in as much as possible, and it's about the only way I can get a video that has the detail in it that I like to make. Wish me luck, and let's get into making this hammer eye punch. Right, here we have my Fork Lift Tine. So this is 4140 steel. It's 4 inches or 100 millimeters wide. It's 40 millimeters thick. So I picked up 2 of these from the local forklift truck repair place. 2 tines, 50 Australian dollars. So I think pretty cheap. Well, very cheap for the amount of steel that's in it. So I've marked it along here, being 100 millimeters across. I've marked it evenly, 33, 33, 33. So I'll have to see how I go cutting it. I'm going to cut up these sides and see if we can get some material out of here for making my drifts and punches. Okay, here's my material for making my punch with. By the way, I'm using this as a guide. It's just a hardware store bought hardwood hammer handle. So we're looking at roughly 20 millimeters thick that way. That's why I'm using that as a guide. And we're looking at 30 millimeters that way, which I have 32 millimeters here. So by the time I've forged it out, rounded off the corners, and probably give it a bit of a grind once I've finished, I should be round about the right size. Might be a little bit thick, but I can always draw it out a little bit so that I can get it down to the right thickness. I'd rather have too much and draw it out than not enough. So I've got the steel in the gas forge today. We've got a total fire ban here for today and tomorrow, so unfortunately, even though the coal forge is inside and I don't expect there to be any sparks, just by lighting it up there's going to be a degree of smoke, and I don't want the fireys coming around here saying what the hell are you doing on total fire ban, lighting an open fire. So this is pumping out a lot of heat and it's really hot today, so I hope you can hear me over the roar of the forge. I'm going to keep it going because that way I'll keep my heat up, and it's a quite a large piece of 4140 which will need a bit of heat in it. So sorry if the sound isn't all that great, but I'm about to pull it out and start working on the piece of steel I showed you. Take that corner down a bit. Right, I've got that bit reasonably good. What I'm going to do now is I've turned it round and I'm going to heat up the other end, and we're going to try and draw out that other end a little bit. Hopefully I can hang on to the cutting end better with these crappy tongs. What I'll do is I'll use these tongs, which should get a better grip on it. I'll get rid of that cupping when I go do the grinding. I'll probably cut it off at the end and then grind it down. Okay, that struck end's not too bad now, the length and taper. I want to just make sure I've got the middle bit flattened out a bit, because I've got a different method I'm going to use on this hammer eye punch. So just experimenting, hoping it will turn out, and we'll see how we go. Righto, I've got that middle bit flattened out. So going to start working on the punched end again, the cutting end. and make sure I've got that to where I want it before I attempt to put a handle on it. I don't think that's too bad at all. So at the very end, it's about 18 mil. About, let me think, if I'm going through about 50 mil the most, at that end it's about 24, 25. Probably do with just tapering it down a little bit more. That's still about 17 now, maybe 18 a bit further up. If I take the end off and then come up 50 mil, that's to there. That'd be, oh, it's about 26. I'll take the rest off with the grinder, I reckon. So I've got to get this piece hot and punch a hole through. So I shall get my punch and I'll put a mark where I want it. Gives me a little mark. Right there. Righto, it's working. Just got to get it hot again. No point batching it half hot. Silly me, didn't dunk my bloody chisel, did I? My punch. Idiot. Just a beginner, so I forget some of these things. Get focused on doing one thing and forget about the other. So focused on getting my hole punch straight that I forgot to bring my water over and dunk my punch. So I probably overheated my punch and lost its temper, but I'll just re-temper it once I finish this job. I reckon once I get it through a little bit more, one more heat, I'll be able to see it clearly on the other side, and I'll be able to come in from the other side and then try and knock out the slug. too bad, fairly straight, fairly central. I might have to drift that a little bit once I figure out my handle. Righto, let's see what we've got here. I've finished grinding it up, putting it on the wire wheel and cleaning it up as much as I think it needs to be at this point in time. I've put the edge on it that I think is the most appropriate profile. I could be wrong and I'm not sure, but it looks pretty good to me. There we go, it's reasonably symmetrical and it has what I think is a good taper on it. It tapers this way gently for quite a long way, and I'll be probably punching through to about that point there, so plenty of smooth taper before I get into that little shabby bit there. Rest of it's just to get the weight and the strength and the length to have good orientation as to which way is up and down. I've got my struck end ground down, got that little bit of a mushroom effect out of it. It's probably not perfect yet, but it had a little bit of a dimple in the end where I'd been forging it out, and I've ground that dimple out of it and domed it over, so that's pretty good end on there. As I said previously, the hole came out pretty well, pretty symmetrical, pretty even. Probably, yeah, I think it is straight with between there and there, so I do have a little bit more swelling over here and over here than on those corners, so she's swelled out more here and here than it did there and there, but it's just unimportant, I think. Very, very happy so far with it. So my next task now is to get started on my handle material and forge that out to a point where I can drift out this hole to the appropriate size that I end up with my handle, and then start installing the handle onto the punch. Okay. Okay, I've got a bit of material here. It is probably 32 by 10 mil, 32 by 10 mil, and the hole in my punch at this stage is about 28 at the wide end by about 7 mil. what I think I'll do, this will make a great handle. Reasonably heavy, of course, but I don't need to use it all. Having it sitting in my hand like that is actually really good to keep it upright. You can feel the upright in it. So if I forge that down, make a bigger hole, forge it down with a shoulder, a bit of a set down there and there. So I've got a shoulder here and here. That'll then slide on to about there, and then I can pin over the end. I'm going to start by cleaning this up a little bit so I can see the metal. It's got lots of disgusting grease and oil and crud all over it. So I'll put that on the wire wheel, clean it up, see what it looks like, and start working on the end. Okay, I'm going to take 30mm, put a little mark on it so I can find it when I go to use my jig, my tenon jig. So I'll take 30mm off there, put a mark on, 30mm off there, just put a couple of little marks on. Rightio, I'm going to try and work a tenon in there to isolate the section that I'm going to stick through the hole in my punch. Well, that's a starting point. I isolated way too much. I'm going to have to cut most of that off, but that's alright. Probably best if I use the sharp end, not the blunt end. That wasn't part of the plan, I just quenched it accidentally. Very much not part of the plan. I'm going to have to bring that whole thing back up to critical temperature again now. What a bummer. One of the reasons not to have your quench bucket directly there. Bounced off and straight into my quench bucket. Hope that hasn't made the steel too brittle. She's nice and hot again. Okay, so I'll come in from that side. About 9 by about 19. So I reckon that's close to the size of that. Yep, it's a little bit smaller. 9, 19. It's a pretty good starting point. Very close. Very, very close. Right, that's going in now. It's down okay. Now I've got to figure out how much I need to burr over. One of the beauties of having a large door on the forge, I can open this right up, get that out of the way, still manage to get that in there to get a bit of heat into it, so I can continue to peen that over. That end there is getting pretty hot. So is the camera holding it that close, but you can see the usefulness of the large door. It's tight. Okay, well that was a good day in the forge. It was a very hot day in the forge. As I think I said earlier on, it was a total fire ban today. I believe it got up to about 34 degrees, and I couldn't light the coal forge, which obviously doesn't put out anywhere near as much heat as this big girl here. So I reckon it must have been over 50 odd degrees in here today, and I managed to get this tool made. So it turned out pretty much like I wanted. It is 300mm long, and the handle is 450mm long, so it gives me a good amount of room to get away from my material, get far enough back to be able to have room to swing. I don't want it tucked in underneath me and be little Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. So I'll stand up. So now when I put it on here, I can pretty much attach it to my belt hip here. So if I stand like that, that now has an upright position in this plane. I can see this plane, and if I've got it on my hip here and with the flat handle, I can control that movement fairly well. It turned out reasonably solid. As you can see here, it's well and truly set into here. So very, very pleased with the way that turned out. So that's stage one of the Hammer Tools project. Oh, by the way, yeah, it hasn't been tempered yet, as I said. I have that slight little bend in it from where I peened this over, trying to get this hot. I obviously had a little bit of heat in the actual punch itself, and that all that hammering on there had put a bend in there. So I will be heating it back up again, and I will be straightening that out then heat treating it. So the whole thing has to be annealed. So that's a coal forge job. It's a bit of a weird angle to be fitting into the gas forge and a bit long, but I can position that down inside my fire pot like that, and don't have to do anything with this. So I can build my fire up around that, get that nice and hot, straighten that back out, allow it to cool right down again in room temperature, annealing, then I can do the heat treatment on it and put it into the use when I finish the other tools that I'm going to need. Really missed not having a decent pair of tongs today, so that job might be coming up the list a little bit more in my priorities, but tomorrow I'll probably have a go at a drift. Okay, thanks again for watching Forge Right, and hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, do so. Tell your friends about the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.